The Zylaxian High Command vessel Eternal Dawn hung in high orbit above Mars, its crystalline surface refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns across the red planet below. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood motionless before the ship's quantum observation array, his four eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth's defense systems. "Primitive," he whispered, mandibles clicking softly. "Their most advanced satellites still use chemical propulsion. Their weapons are based on projectiles and crude atomic devices. How do they even manage interplanetary colonization?" Supreme Commander, his second-in-command, strategic analyst Mira 7, approached with characteristic precision. Her biomechanical enhancements hummed quietly as she interfaced with the ship's systems. "I must advise caution. Our preliminary analysis suggests some anomalies." Vexthor turned, his iridescent exoskeleton shifting colors with his movement. "Anomalies. We've conquered civilizations that could terraform planets in days. These humans still burn fossil fuels on their homeworld." "Yes, Supreme Commander, but observe their development curve." Mira 7 projected a new hologram. In merely 3 centuries, they progressed from primitive combustion engines to Mars colonies. No other known species has shown such rapid technological advancement. All the more reason to subjugate them now, before they become a genuine threat, Vexthor declared. "Their Mars colonies will make an excellent first target. Minimal defenses, maximum psychological impact." Mira 7's optical sensors pulsed with concern. "There's something else, Commander. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected unusual activities in their asteroid belt. The humans appear to be experimenting." "Experimenting?" Vexthor's antenna twitched with mild interest. "They're using mining explosives to alter asteroid trajectories. Our analysts believe they're practicing some form of primitive gravitational warfare. It's crude, but the underlying principles..." She paused, searching for the right words. "They're discovering advanced concepts through trial and error, without understanding the theoretical framework first." Vexthor dismissed her concerns with a gesture. "Enough. The Council has approved this intervention precisely because the humans are at their most vulnerable. Their technology is advanced enough to be useful, but not enough to resist us. Prepare the first wave." As the invasion fleet assembled, Mira 7 made one final attempt. "Supreme Commander, there's a human phrase we discovered in their entertainment archives. Necessity is the mother of invention. Their historical records show they're most innovative when threatened." Entertainment archives. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. "You've been studying their fiction. Focus on their military capabilities, analyst. Fiction is irrelevant." The first wave descended on Mars Colony 1 just as the Earth-Mars transport windows were closing, ensuring no immediate reinforcements could arrive. The Zylaxian ships deployed in perfect formation, their energy shields creating a spectacular aurora in the thin Martian atmosphere. Colony 1's governor, Sarah Chen, watched the alien ships approach through the main dome's reinforced windows. She activated the emergency broadcast system, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "This is not a drill. Initiate Protocol Thermopylae." The colony's 3,000 inhabitants moved with practiced efficiency, but not toward the emergency shelters as the Zylaxians expected. Instead, they headed to their workstations. In the mining sector, Chief Engineer Marcus O'Reilly grinned as he initiated what his team called the gravity slingshot from hell. They'd been practicing this maneuver for months under the guise of routine asteroid mining. The massive mass drivers, originally designed to launch processed ore into orbit, swiveled towards predetermined coordinates. In the agricultural domes, Dr. Yuki Tanaka's bioengineering team released their special projects. Experimental algae strains designed to produce oxygen had been modified to generate something far more interesting when introduced to the Martian soil. And in the colony's supposedly primitive nuclear power plant, Dr. James Wilson initiated the sequence they'd calculated would turn their cold fusion reactor into something that violated several laws of physics, laws the humans had apparently misunderstood in exactly the right way. As the Zylaxian ships entered the optimal attack range, Vex-Thor received a transmission from the colony. Governor Chen's image appeared on his command screen, her expression unnervingly calm. Unknown vessels, this is Mars Colony 1. We've been expecting someone like you. Welcome to humanity's testing ground. The next 15 minutes would fundamentally change the galaxy's understanding of human nature. Mars Colony 1 didn't just survive. It turned itself into a weapon, using technologies that shouldn't have worked together in ways that shouldn't have been possible. As his ships began falling to what appeared to be coordinated asteroid strikes, improvised plasma bursts, and some kind of biological reaction that was literally eating through their advanced hull materials, Vex-Thor realized Mira 7's warning had been catastrophically insufficient. The humans hadn't been experimenting. They'd been preparing. Every primitive technology, every inefficient system, every apparent technological shortcoming had been deliberately engineered to appear less advanced than it was. Mars Colony 1 wasn't just a settlement. It was a trap. And as the emergency quantum transmission reached Earth, triggering a cascade of similar colonist responses across the solar system, Vex-Thor finally understood why humans included fiction in their military analysis. They had imagined this scenario thousands of times, in thousands of ways. They had been rehearsing for this moment through their stories, preparing their minds for possibilities their technology hadn't yet reached. The galaxy was about to learn an important lesson. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology. It was their imagination, and their relentless drive to turn imagination into reality. The Xylaxian defeat at Mars should have served as a warning. Instead, it became a catalyst for what military historians would later call the miscalculation. Supreme Commander Vex-Thor, his pride wounded and his reputation at stake, convinced the High Command that Mars Colony 1 was an anomaly. The colonial forces were small, specialized, and prepared, he argued. Earth's population centers will be different. They cannot have fortified every city as they did Mars. Earth's response to the Mars attack had been puzzling. No official declarations of war. No military mobilization. Just a simple message from the United Earth Defense Council. We're sorry you had to learn this way. The Sydney offensive began at dawn. 5,000 Xylaxian ships emerged from quantum space, their advanced sensors detecting no significant military presence in the Australian metropolis. Vex-Thor had chosen the target carefully. A major population center, but not a primary military hub. Begin the psychological warfare sequence, Vex-Thor commanded. The Xylaxian fleet deployed their sonic disruptors, designed to incapacitate primitive nervous systems. The devices activated, and nothing happened. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the humans appear to be wearing earbuds. Before Vex-Thor could process this information, the city transformed. What appeared to be ordinary office buildings began shifting, their glass facades revealing complex electromagnetic weapon systems. The harbor's underwater maintenance drones surfaced by the hundreds, each carrying improvised but lethal weaponry. Dr. Emma Chen, director of the Sydney Opera House, pressed a button on her conductor's podium. The building's iconic shell split apart, revealing what appeared to be a massive acoustic resonance chamber. Time to show them why we practiced those high notes, she told her orchestra, who had traded their instruments for control stations. The counterattack came from everywhere and nowhere. Construction workers used their equipment with terrifying precision, their knowledge of the city's infrastructure turning every street into a trap. Children's gaming consoles, linked together in vast networks, provided real-time tactical coordination that somehow bypassed Xylaxian communication jamming. In the harbor, marine biologists released what they called Project Kraken, genetically modified jellyfish that produced electromagnetic pulses, disrupting Xylaxian shield harmonics. The Opera House unleashed sonic weapons that seemed specifically calibrated to the resonant frequencies of Xylaxian hull materials. Impossible, Vex-Thor muttered as reports flooded in. They're using public transportation systems as weapon platforms. Their traffic control network is coordinating civilian vehicles into formation attacks. Even their waste management systems. He was interrupted by a massive explosion as the city's recycling center demonstrated exactly what happens when you combine common household chemicals with a detailed understanding of alien ship atmospherics. Strategic analyst Mira 7, monitoring from orbit, noticed something else. "Sir," their response, "it's too coordinated, too precise." She paused, her cybernetic systems processing the data. "These aren't emergency protocols. This is rehearsed. Every civilian in this city knows exactly what to do." She was right. Sydney's residents moved with practiced efficiency, transforming their daily tools into weapons of war. Office workers used their knowledge of building systems to create environmental hazards. Healthcare workers turned their understanding of biology against Xylaxian ground forces. Even the zoo staff played their part, their knowledge of Earth's predators proving unexpectedly applicable to alien psychology. The turning point came when the city's Quantum Physics Research Center, previously dismissed as primitive, revealed why they had been studying quantum entanglement. Every traffic light in Sydney activated simultaneously, creating a city-wide pattern that somehow affected Xylaxian navigational systems. "Sir," Mira 7 reported, "I've decoded some of their tactical communications. They're using memes. Their battle coordinates are encoded in popular culture references. Our AI can't predict their actions because they're not using formal military protocols." As his forces retreated in disarray, Vex Thor received another transmission from Earth's Defense Council. "Perhaps now would be a good time to discuss why we let you attack Mars first." The truth dawned on him too late. Mars hadn't been humanity's testing ground. It had been their demonstration model. Every city, every settlement, every human population center had spent years preparing in plain sight, disguising military innovations as civilian infrastructure. And Sydney was just the beginning. Reports were coming in from across the planet. Each city had its own unique defense system, based on its culture, its infrastructure, and its people's particular skills. There was no single strategy to counter, no central defense to overcome. Humanity hadn't just prepared for war, they had made preparation part of their civilization's basic function. Every human was a potential soldier, every tool a potential weapon, and every civilian project a potential military innovation. As the Xylaxian fleet retreated from Sydney's airspace, leaving behind wreckage that would later be efficiently recycled into the city's defense systems, Vex Thor received one final message. It was from a Sydney primary school. "Thanks for helping us test our science projects." The galaxy was learning another lesson about humanity. Their greatest strength wasn't their military might. It was their ability to turn their entire civilization into a defense system without ever letting it show. The Xylaxian research vessel, Quantum Seeker, drifted powerless in Earth orbit, its crew watching in fascination and horror as humans swarmed over their sister ship. The supposedly primitive species had captured the advanced warship Stellar Dawn intact, and rather than simply studying it, they were improving it. Dr. Sarah Martinez, head of Earth's Reverse Engineering Division, floated through the alien vessel's corridors, her augmented reality display highlighting points of interest. "Look at this propulsion system," she called out to her team. "They're using quantum tunneling principles, but they're so conservative with it." Around her, a diverse team of scientists and engineers from every corner of Earth worked with barely contained excitement. A group of video game designers collaborated with theoretical physicists, their experience with virtual physics engines proving unexpectedly valuable in understanding alien technology. "They're treating quantum mechanics like it's predictable," laughed Dr. Chen Wei, a former racing drone programmer. "No wonder their ships are so slow. They're afraid of the uncertainty principle." He was already sketching modifications on his tablet, incorporating principles from Earth's experimental drift racing. In the ship's medical bay, Dr. James Okoro, a specialist in traditional healing practices and modern medicine, examined the Xylaxian biological enhancement systems. "Their entire approach to biotechnology is backwards," he declared. "They're forcing their biology to match their technology. We can do better." He captured ship became humanity's playground. Earth scientists, unburdened by traditional alien doctrine, began applying principles from fields the Zalaxians had never considered relevant. Chaos theory mathematics derived from weather prediction. Biological systems inspired by Earth's extremophile organisms. Computing architectures based on social media network analysis. On the Quantum Seeker, science director Ixel watched in disbelief as humans literally rebuilt his people's technology while discussing something called mod culture and making references to various sci-fi shows. They're treating advanced technology like a community project, he transmitted to high command. They have something called open source development. They're sharing their innovations globally, allowing random humans to suggest improvements. It's chaos, but it's working. The humans didn't just copy Zalaxian technology. They reimagined it. They introduced concepts the aliens had never considered. Redundancy inspired by biological systems, adaptive algorithms derived from video game AI, and quantum computing architectures that embraced uncertainty rather than trying to control it. In the ship's former engine room, now a bustling workshop, a team led by Dr. Rodriguez, a specialist in ancient human navigation techniques, worked on the quantum positioning system. The Zalaxians navigate like they have GPS everywhere, she explained. But what happens when you need to find your way without infrastructure? We're teaching their ships to navigate by the stars, like our ancestors did. The most disturbing breakthrough came when a group of teenage hackers, invited to examine the ship's cybersecurity systems, started giggling. They're using quantum encryption, one explained between laughs, but they never considered what happens if you don't try to decrypt it, and instead, the resulting modification made Zalaxian security protocols not just breakable, but potentially recursive, creating what the teens called quantum memes. Dr. Martinez's daily report to Earth Defense Command reflected the controlled chaos of human innovation. We're not just learning their technology. We're teaching it to break its own rules. Every system they designed to be perfect, we're making adaptable. Every protocol they made rigid, we're making fluid. We're not trying to match their technological level. We're changing what their technology means. The transformation of the stellar dawn became a symbol of humanity's approach to advancement. Where the Zalaxians saw technology as a means to impose order on the universe, humans saw it as a tool for exploring possibilities. Each captured system was not just reversed engineered, but reversed philosophically. 3 weeks after its capture, the stellar dawn was ready for its first test flight. The ship that emerged from Earth's orbital dockyards barely resembled its original form. Its quantum systems now operated on principles derived from jazz improvisation. Its biological interfaces incorporated design elements from video game controllers. Its weapon systems had been modified based on theories from environmental science and social psychology. As the hybrid vessel prepared to launch, Dr. Martinez sent one final message to the observing Zalaxian ships. "Thank you for the starter kit. We've made some improvements. Would you like to see them?" On the Quantum Seeker, science director Ixel watched as the modified ship executed maneuvers that his people had deemed theoretically impossible. The humans hadn't just mastered Zalaxian technology. They had freed it from the limitations of Zalaxian thinking. "We may have made a terrible mistake," he transmitted to high command. "We gave them access to advanced technology, but more importantly, we gave them new ideas to play with." The galaxy was learning yet another lesson about humanity. They didn't just adapt to new technology. They taught technology to adapt to them. And in doing so, changed the very nature of what was possible. The Zalaxian War College had never witnessed such a heated debate. Fleet strategists and military theorists argued furiously over holographic displays showing human battle formations, if they could even be called formations. "They're using mining ships as carriers," Admiral Kudex explained, his mandibles twitching in frustration. "Cargo containers modified into stealth weapons platforms. They're turning asteroids into missiles using nothing but carefully calculated gravitational slingshots. It defies all established military doctrine." The humans had taken their fight beyond Earth, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of building a conventional fleet, they had weaponized the very infrastructure of space travel. Solar power satellites became orbital defense platforms. Space debris was transformed into carefully choreographed obstacle courses. Even their primitive radio communications were being used to create interference patterns that disrupted Zylaxian quantum sensors. Admiral Jensen of the United Earth Defense Force stood on the bridge of the U.S. Unconventional, a converted ice mining vessel. The ship's holds, once used to store frozen water from Saturn's rings, now contained swarms of microdrones built using modified 3D printing technology. "Launch the next phase," Jensen commanded. "Let's show them why humans always root for the underdog." Across the solar system, humanity's asymmetric warfare campaign unfolded. Civilian transport networks became a complex shell game, making it impossible to track military movements. The asteroid belt transformed into what humans called the galaxy's largest minefield, though no actual mines were involved, just precisely calculated orbital mechanics. The Zylaxian defeat at Europa proved particularly humiliating. Human submarines, designed for exploring the Moon's subsurface ocean, demonstrated why Earth's navies had spent centuries perfecting the art of underwater warfare. The alien fleet never saw the attack coming from below the ice. "They're not fighting like a spacefaring civilization," strategic analyst Mira 7 reported to High Command. "They're fighting like their ancient guerrilla forces, but with technology. Each tactic is based on historical strategies, updated with modern capabilities." The humans had even turned their scientific research into a weapon. The Large Hadron Collider, quickly modified with Zylaxian quantum technology, wasn't just studying particle physics anymore. It was generating localized space-time distortions that played havoc with alien targeting systems. Perhaps most disturbing was humanity's approach to fleet coordination. Instead of using centralized command structures, they employed what they called swarm intelligence. Tactics evolved from studying Earth's insect colonies. Each ship, each station, each unit could operate independently while still contributing to the larger strategy. "Sir," a junior analyst interrupted Admiral Kvex's contemplation. "The humans are. They're posting their battle tactics on something called social media. But each post is different. And they're all wrong, but also right. And I don't understand." They had turned information warfare into an art form. Every public channel carried different plans, each convincing, each supported by evidence, and each designed to be intercepted. The real strategies were hidden in plain sight, camouflaged by an ocean of plausible alternatives. The breaking point came during the Battle of Titan. The Zylaxian fleet arrived in perfect formation, ready to engage Earth's forces in proper combat at last. Instead, they found themselves fighting Saturn's rings themselves, transformed into a vast orbital weapon through the precise application of electromagnetic fields and some remarkably creative use of shepherd moons. "They're not trying to match our military might," Mira 7 realized as she watched another perfect formation, shattered by seemingly random but devastatingly effective tactics. "They're making military might irrelevant. Every advantage we have becomes a vulnerability when they change the rules of engagement." Back on the Unconventional, Admiral Jensen received reports of the Titan victory with a grim smile. "Send the usual message to their command," she ordered. Throughout Zylaxian command channels, the now dreaded text appeared. "Thanks for the practice. We're getting better at this." The galaxy was learning perhaps its most important lesson about humanity yet. They didn't play war games. They turned war itself into a game, and they played to win, regardless of who made the rules. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from 17 spacefaring civilizations watched the holographic display with a mixture of awe and terror as Supreme Commander Vexthor delivered his final report on the human conflict. "They never built a proper fleet," he explained, his once proud stance now heavy with hard-earned wisdom. "They didn't need to. They turned our understanding of warfare against us. Every standard tactic, every established strategy became a vulnerability. They didn't just think outside the box. They convinced the box it wanted to be a weapon. The final battle hadn't been a battle at all, at least not by any traditional definition. The combined Zalaxian Armada, nearly 10,000 ships strong, had prepared for humanity's unconventional tactics. They had adaptive shields, randomized formations, and countermeasures for every known human strategy. What they weren't prepared for was the invitation. "We're tired of fighting." The transmission had read, "Come to Saturn. Let's talk. Bring everyone." Of course, it was a trap. Everyone knew it was a trap. The Zalaxian fleet arrived ready for anything. Swarm attacks, gravitational weapons, weaponized civilian ships. They were prepared for every strategy humans had previously employed. They weren't prepared for the humans to simply turn off gravity, not just locally, but across the entire Saturn system. They had seeded the rings with quantum resonators. Mira 7 explained to the Council, her cybernetic systems still struggling to process the event. Nothing advanced, just modified versions of our own technology, integrated with their understanding of orbital mechanics. When they activated the network, the hologram showed what happened next. The perfect spiral of Saturn's rings transformed into a three-dimensional lattice of ice and rock, each particle precisely positioned. The Zalaxian fleet found themselves in the middle of what humans casually referred to as the galaxy's largest Newton's cradle. They turned orbital mechanics into a musical instrument, a physicist counselor whispered. The resonance patterns. They conducted Saturn's rings like an orchestra. The result was as beautiful as it was devastating. Ships that could withstand direct energy weapon hits found themselves helpless against the synchronized dance of countless particles, each imparting tiny amounts of momentum, building into an irresistible force. But it wasn't just about defeating the fleet. As their ships tumbled helplessly in the choreographed chaos, the humans broadcast their real message. "We could destroy your fleet right now. Instead, we're going to teach you something about humanity. Watch carefully." What followed was a demonstration of precision rather than power. The same forces that could have torn the ships apart were instead used to arrange them into a stable configuration. The humans hadn't just mastered Zalaxian technology. They had learned to juggle capital ships using nothing but ice particles and gravity. "That's when we finally understood," Vexthor concluded. "They weren't fighting us. They were teaching us. Every battle, every engagement was a lesson about human nature." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some argued for quarantine, others for alliance. A few suggested studying humans from a safe distance. The debate raged until a final transmission appeared on the central display. "We're aware of this meeting," it read. "We've already uploaded everything we've learned into your networks, including our improvements to your technology. Consider it a peace offering and a warning. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We don't want to fight. But if pushed, we will not just survive. We will turn your own civilization into the tools of our victory. We would rather be friends." The message was signed, "Humanity," because sometimes the best way to win a war is to make it irrelevant. In the years that followed, the galaxy changed. Species that had prided themselves on technological superiority learned to value innovation over perfection. Military doctrine evolved to incorporate uncertainty rather than trying to eliminate it. And gradually, the term human thinking became less of an insult and more of a compliment. The greatest lesson humanity taught the galaxy wasn't about warfare or technology. It was simpler than that. The most dangerous species in the universe isn't the one with the most advanced weapons or the strongest ships. It's the one that can look at a coffee maker and wonder if it could be used to launch missiles. The Zalaxian War College now includes a mandatory course called Human Perspectives. Its first lesson is simple. Before engaging in conflict, ask yourself, could your enemy turn your victory conditions into a weapon? If the answer might be yes, you're probably fighting humans.